Hello and welcome to another handstand tutorial on flow with me, Livewire from Storm Freerun. Today we're going to go over one of the greatest exercises on the planet, handstand on the spot. Hopefully if you're watching this you've mastered the frog stand, headstand, handstand against the wall and done a little bit of walking on your hands. If you've not, it might be useful to go check them now, but if you want to just go straight into the handstand, that's fine. The most important part of being able to hold a two-handed handstand on the spot without moving is how you get into it, and this is called the kick up. The most common mistake people make is they start with their arms really high and swing them to the ground and throw the legs in the air, and this makes it really hard to balance when you get into it. So in kicking up, one way is to start with your hands on the floor, shoulders and head forward, lead with one leg on the floor, and kick it up. Remember, shoulders forward, bring the other foot to match. The other way is to start slightly above, and this way you can use some of gravity to get your upper body down and your feet up. But it's an exchange. It's not a sudden exchange, it's more of a fluid rocking motion. So it's like hands down, lower body up. It's not a swap at the same time, which is the mistake people make. They try to get their feet up at the same time as putting their hands down. You want to go hands first, then your feet up. So it's a rocking motion. So you go hands down, feet up. Other foot to match, knees locked, bum straight. Your hands want to be shoulder width apart, index fingers parallel, both pointing forward. Fingers spread really wide so you get maximum surface area covered. Once your hands are on the floor and both feet are in the air, there's only three things that can happen. You can hold it and stay in the handstand. This is what we're aiming for. You can come back down the way you went up, which is undershooting, or you can overshoot and fall the other way. If you're undershooting, as we covered in the previous episode, you can't fight it with the heel of your hand. You have to bend your elbows to regain the balance and then get back up into a handstand. If you are falling back down the way you went up, don't just give up straight away. Fight it, bend your elbows, tuck your legs in, make sure that your feet don't come and touch the floor until the last second. Really fight it at the very end. The other option is that you overshoot the handstand. This is biggest people's problem when learning the handstand is they're so afraid to overshoot the handstand that they never quite get up there. But you have to get over that fear and commit to it. There are two ways to get out of overshooting a handstand. One, you can lift one hand up, turn a little bit and put your feet on the floor, which is probably the safest way. Or there's two, where you duck your head under and turn it into a forward roll. Occasionally when you're overbalanced or underbalanced, you might prefer to take a step with your hand and start walking instead of coming down to your feet. That's fine, and that will help you to learn and get the strength a lot quicker. Remember, whilst learning to handstand, a lot of people have a tendency to undershoot much more than they overshoot. If you want to find that dead center line of gravity as quick as possible, you want to be making sure you're overshooting just as much as you're undershooting until you find that center spot. To sum up, when kicking up into a handstand, remember, lean shoulders and head far forward before you kick up. Once you're up, drop your head and shoulders back, feet straight, knees locked. To correct overbalance, fight with your fingertips. To correct underbalance, bend your elbows. People often ask me, what's the best position to be in whilst holding a handstand? To be honest, there's no correct answer, but there's three techniques that I tend to see. There's a gymnastic technique with your shoulders, hips and heels all in one line. This takes a bit more control and balance as your center of gravity is the highest point with this technique. There's a technique that I use and I see most often with other people with a slightly arched back. This requires an even mixture of balance and strength. There's a third technique with a really deep arched back. This requires a bit less balance and a bit more strength as it's lower center of gravity and a bit closer to the planche. The kick up to handstand is the easiest way to learn to balance on two hands. But once you've mastered that, there are many other ways of getting into the handstand. I'll demonstrate some of them for you now. That's all for this handstand tutorial. My number one and final piece of advice is to keep practicing. It doesn't happen instantly, but after a couple of sessions, your body starts to adapt and it gets used to it, and you start to notice improvements, so stick with it. It's okay if you want to walk on your hands and practice the handstand on two hands and flick between the two practices. That will build up your strength quickly and you'll get there in no time. Thanks for watching.